Hello and welcome to the Store Central Postgame Show. This is Aman Kidwai, joined by Graham Chamberlain. We've got a great game to talk about after UConn wins in convincing fashion, 38-23 at Boston College. We got a little caught up in the moment out there in Newtown, Mass, so we weren't able to do this right after the game. But here we are. We got to talk about Joe Fagnano throwing for a career high in passing yards again, his third 300-yard passing game of the season, his second straight game, throwing for a career high. Great performance just overall against BC. I think the way that they competed through the first half and then clamped down defensively in the second half as the passing attack led the way is a very interesting and impressive and unique way for UConn to be winning games, but seems like something that may be the model going forward. I posted this everywhere. Allowed 27 yards in the third quarter, 96 yards in the fourth quarter. BC converted just 1 of 7 third downs in the second half. So there is a lot of tremendous stuff to focus on here, of course, in addition to what it means to beat Boston College. To me, it does not matter that BC sucks or had a slew of injuries roster.
Don't care.
This is a team with a talent advantage on UConn, and the Huskies took it to them. They played better, and against a lot of our criticism in previous games, they closed when it mattered. They got the stops when they needed to. They got the touchdowns late to put the game away, and here we are. Nice win, nicest win of the season.
Yeah, I mean, that's now 2 back-to-back feeling really complete performances. I hate to use the old cliches like complimentary football, all 3 phases of the game, all that stuff. But it's true. I mean, Joe is just totally locked in right now. There's no other way the pass game is just incredible at the moment. Something I never thought we'd ever be able to say again. It's just been so long. I mean, I think I tweeted out last night, last QB to do this, back-to-back 300-yard games was our boy Brian Sheriffs in 2017. Yes. So, one of those, that was actually back-to-back 400-yard performances, but that's a 49-28 loss to SMU, and then that super cool 70-30 loss to Memphis on a Friday night in 2017.
All very memorable.
This is much better to get wins while also throwing for a lot of yards, because you're not just picking up hundreds of yards in garbage time. I think I'm done at this point trying to say we need to balance out the offense. I think that's just my own anxiety about UConn never really having a good pass game. It is what it is at this point. They're not going to be running for 200 yards a game, almost 200 yards a game like they were last year, but they do not have to. They don't have to, and that's great. They were able to move the ball on the ground when it mattered yesterday, I thought. They did a better job, obviously, as you mentioned, closing it out. Part of that includes the run game. It was great to see more than just Skylar Bell get involved offensively. I mean, Honig had 2 catches, 1 for 40 yards, which is big. I'm just looking at the yak here. I mean, 208 of Joe's 360 yards was yak, and that's beautiful. That is just getting your playmakers the ball and let them do the rest. That's all you have to do. We've said this multiple times this season on this show. Joe does not have to be the perfect quarterback. He just needs to deliver a good, accurate ball to his playmakers, and he's doing that. Absolutely. He's doing it great right now. 38-yard catch for Bell. He had 125 yards. Vereen obviously had the 50-yard touchdown catch. Snyder, 43. I already said Honig. So more people are getting involved. The defense, like you said, did a great job coming out of the half. I was not feeling great going into the half after those 2 quick scores for BC to kind of end the half in that last touchdown drive, where it looked like Moore was kind of lighting up Brock a little bit on the sidelines there. He was not happy. Something I think was happening was, Brock likes to see what the offense is doing and then put his play call in, right? And so then BC's like, well, then we keep moving the ball on the ground, and we're just going to keep doing that. And we're going to keep going quick. So Brock is not able to get, guys aren't able to get set and play calls aren't getting in. And that was a problem, obviously, because you saw BC get that touchdown. But they adjusted, and it helped too. We could talk more about the BC side of things coming up, but Grayson James was just like not hitting receivers; they were open, and it was throwing it at their feet, throwing it way over their heads. Like, it wasn't like UConn completely clamped down and the secondary's all over these guys, and it's like he just missed throws. And okay, we'll get to BC, but all these things helped. It's tough to lose. I'm assuming we lose out on Chadwick for a little bit. He had a big collision with Malachi McLean, and it didn't look good. Didn't look good on TV. Didn't look good live. I'm gonna have to assume he's out for a little bit, opening up more time for Osiris Gilbert to start. So we'll see what that secondary looks like next week in Houston. But I thought the D line got some better pressure than they have. It was Trent Jones really playing in his first game this season, first real action. I thought he was great. Huge to have him with Ben Smiley banged up. Again, we'll see if he's back next week. He kind of came out towards the end and he could not really run. I'm like, why are we? I'm sure he wanted to be out there. He's a senior. He's a gamer, but it's like it didn't look like he was feeling too good. So to have Jones come in, that was huge. So feeling pretty good going forward. Oh, and obviously, like Parham, great. Tied a career high, 14 tackles. That's his highest as a Husky. It ties his highest going back to San Jose State. I mean, he just was everywhere yesterday, like he always is. Like, he's kind of like Joe and Skylar right now. Like, we can expect Parham to just be totally locked in and get at least 10 tackles. Diamande, I think, had 11. Linebackers are playing great still. So just all in all, and I'd be remiss if I didn't shout out special teams. Chris Freeman, I think this is the longest field goal streak since I think Dave Teggart back 2010.
Yes.
I believe it's 11 makes in a row at this point. So, we don't want to take that for granted because, we've certainly seen plenty of teams that don't have good special teams. So, just really clicking on all cylinders right now. And, we got heading into a game against Rice with potentially out its option quarterback, which they run the option. That's a problem for them. UAB looks a little different.
Yeah.
Was like as soon as you get rid of Trent Dilfer, they seem to be pretty good. Which, duh.
Gonna be better. Yeah.
But there's a real chance to be 7-2 going into the Duke game.
Yeah. No, it's that is of course impressive stuff. We'll talk about what we're feeling about the outlook for the season probably at the very end of this conversation. But to go back to the game here, 7 sacks, right? Yeah. That's a season high for UConn. The way that they were getting it done, yeah.
And just to cut you off, sorry, but obviously BC's missing some guys on the line, but this is still an ACC line,
right?
And this is a D line that hadn't really, front seven that really hadn't even got pressure against teams like Ball State.
Exactly.
So to be able to turn this around, huge. And I was at the game with a BC friend. So I'm sorry, everybody. I do have a BC friend. Yeah. He even felt like I think you're in the trenches. He thought UConn looked bigger than BC's guys, and that's generally not how it is.
Right. Yeah. No. And yes, BC had gone to a backup quarterback, which, there's a little bit of advantage that comes with that, which is that there's not typically a bulk of film on this person. There is Grayson James film for the world. It's not that great. And,
right.
I was not following BC super closely, but somewhat, and seemed like Dylan Lonergan had some good performances early in the season, but then didn't against Clemson, and I don't know. I don't know if Grayson James is what gives you the best shot to win a football game, but I'm not a football coach. Bill O'Brien is the head football coach, BC's 1-6 right now. Again, I don't think that matters in this context because, like you're saying, did not play this well against Ball State or against Buffalo, or against Delaware. Even they kind of played this well against Delaware. But anyway, BC might be better than Delaware. Maybe, I guess we'll see. We won't see, but I think it's still impressive the way it all went down for UConn, the way that the passing game has been leading the way. Like I said earlier, I really do think this is the model, especially with Mel Brown out, with the team's pass blocking being more proficient than its run blocking.
Yeah.
The run game not being as strong, Cam Edwards potentially being a little banged up, the emergence of receivers and tight ends, 2 touchdowns for Juice Vereen, right? We saw
Yeah,
the
I mean,
Alex Hona get unlocked.
Edwards got hurt yesterday. I mean, at one point in the game, and he came back. I doubt he's someone who's gonna be like, no, I'm not gonna finish this game. But again, I think we will see next week at 3:00 how many of these guys are actually out there. Who's practicing this week?
Mm-hmm. But I think to just get into the passing game a little bit more. I think this is huge. I think this is not something we planned for, like you were saying.
Mm-mm.
We're adjusting how we felt about the possibilities of a passing attack with this assembled crew. Not that there was anything explicitly wrong with them, but just that we never thought they'd be kind of leading the way in games. But I do think that's going to be the case. We have, like we said, just 2 straight great games for Fagnano. 2 straight games with, by the way, 8 completions over 15 yards. So, not all of them are throws to the side that someone else runs for a really long way. Some of them are.
Right.
That's great. That's great. If you make that happen, you're doing your job, like you're saying.
Mm-hmm.
But he is also getting guys downfield, right? The Nider touchdown.
Oh, yeah.
He is finding he had Skylar Bell multiple times downfield for long completions. He's finding guys deep downfield as well, and I think that's been the difference in these last 2 games. How are you feeling about just the expanded passing attack, expanded passing weapons? What's exciting about that?
It's confusing because I'm not used to this, but it's great. I mean, I think yesterday that was so huge to get Juice Vereen going. He was kind of recruited as kind of that tweener, tight end receiver type, similar to like a Justin Jolie. He did not have the production or the snaps at NC State, but always the potential. And so, he had gotten off to a slow start, but the past couple of games, he's been like a big part of the passing offense, and that's huge. So, same with Honig. Honig has been struggling a little bit with some drops. No drops. He caught those 2 balls, and then he, got some yards after catch after that. It's great. And then to see Nider,
Nider, man.
There's no way anybody out here was like, who I bet will be the second or third option is John Nider. And look, I have been at many, many practices, and he has done exactly what he's doing on the field in practice. Okay. But a lot of guys do that in practice. Okay. For anybody who's out there and has watched college football practices, it is not anywhere close to the game. Okay.
This happens. Yeah.
So it's like, you always see these guys, and it's never like, wow, where did they come from? Because you do kind of see this happen in practice, and that they're capable of it. But to actually see it happen, especially for a walk-on, especially for a former quarterback, he looks extremely comfortable being a wide receiver. So I think he's just a great athlete. I think he's just a hard worker, and hopefully he's kind of a model for other in-state guys. Like, hey, an option for you is still to come to Connecticut, and you can follow in the footsteps of Nider or Edwards or Rosa, and you can get out there and really show what you have, even if you're under recruited, especially if you're coming from like a public school, even if it's the FCIAC school, still can do that. But just pass game, just to see Joe, I think the difference is, I think we said this like last year after the Syracuse game, right? We it was like the difference between like McCord and Fagnano was McCord was putting the ball where it needed to go, and Joe was kind of hitting his receivers, right? It's like McCord was leading his receivers. He put the ball exactly where it needed to be, away from the defenders. And now it's like now Joe is doing that. Like Joe is now the surgical quarterback. Obviously, still no turnovers, no interceptions. Still,
A few dropped ones, possibly,
yeah.
possibly on this Saturday, but we survived. Yeah, the streak lives.
To say this season there have not been close calls, but hey, there's no asterisks here. They don't count almost interceptions, so it doesn't matter. But
they do now. The PFF counts interceptable balls. Or someone does. It's a stat that gets thrown out.
Sure.
But either way, we will not look at that statistic.
Just to cap it off, is like it's just remarkable to think, Joe. You think back to 2023 with that opening game against NC State, and then that first quarter and a half against Georgia State. Like who thought? Right. Who thought Joe is going to be here 2 years? First of all, who thought he'd even be here 2 years later?
Of course, yeah. Sure.
Thank you, NCAA eligibility confusion for that. But two, this kid in 2 years is going to be throwing back-to-back 300-yard games. He's going to be almost 2,000 yards without an interception. I don't think even the most optimistic UConn fan was like, I bet you that could happen. No. So, all the credit and kudos in the world go to Joe. He's just a really level-headed, mature kid who just works, and he's reaping the benefits of that right now.
Absolutely, and he's a gamer, right? We see that he can scoot if he needs to. He's been an adept scrambler, and he's just really, really calm back there. He drops back to pass. He's shuffling his feet. He's going through his progressions. He does something beautiful, right? Like tremendous. It sounds simple when I say it like that, but it's really, really impressive.
We've seen it not happen for many, many years.
Right. So. And we've seen it done poorly for many, many years. Some of the, we just posted a tweet on his numbers, right? And, he's 14th in passing yards per game. He's in the top 30 in yards per attempt and completion percentage. And it's I don't need to look through the history books. I know nobody was doing this before. I know Matt Bonislawski was not in no top 30 in yards per attempt. So
poor Bones catching strays here. I know. You're absolutely right.
I'm very sorry. All due respect to the tremendous quarterback run of the University of Connecticut after Dan Orlovsky. But it's really, looking back, it's been really dire since 2020. Only 2 guys have finished in the top 100 in passing yards since 2020. And, before that, it's Pindell, who was absolute gamer, tremendous QB, great for UConn, would have won games if there was a competent defense on the other side. We'll say it till we're blue in the face, but he never really was a, passer's passer.
No, who was his guy? Kyle Buss?
Right.
Sorry
also
again.
That Hergy Mayala, maybe.
Respect. Hergy Mayala, of course. Yeah.
Brian Sharefs, like you said, had some games. So you can't be the same team every year. In college football, last year's performance is not as good of a determinant of what you are in the future. If you want to be competitive the following year, the model, the thesis, the approach, it might need to look different. And I think that's what's playing out for UConn. The defense is not as strong. Okay. We just have to accept that. The defense is not as strong. It can be opportunistic. And our hope is basically that it does this second half adjustments thing and the offense pulls through. And right now the offense is being led by the passing game. So this is, I think, what the plan kind of is going forward. UConn was 5-4 in its run to pass ratio last year. Okay. So, that's for this era. That's extremely run heavy for this era. Now UConn is about even, a little bit more passing plays called now on the season, and I think that's going to persist. So we are building the plane out of what is coming through as the best that UConn has, and that's what I've explained here, which is the pass first attack, the defense. You have to act like your defense is not as strong, right? Sometimes Jim Mora likes to punt as if his defense can stop anyone. You can't do that. this year. There was
Yeah.
one fourth down I would have liked to have gone for in the BC game, but it worked out.
Yeah, I know
Send them
exactly which
back,
one you're
got the
talking
punt.
about.
Yep. So
Worked out.
works out. It works out. And UConn was ahead. Sure. But yeah, it's just going to be a different approach. It's different than what we thought. But if it's working, look, UConn's 5-2, dog, 5-2, one win away from a bowl. They're playing for bowl eligibility at Rice, a team they have beat in the past. Right? It's not scary. They have won. They have won there. And Rice is not particularly good either. They've lost 3 in a row, including to future UConn opponent Florida Atlantic.
Yeah.
So, I mean,
The unique. So they're installing like this. It's not like a true option, like a Army Navy type triple option attack, but it is an option attack, and it's had pretty uneven results. But they were down 2 quarterbacks last week. Jenkins, who's like their option QB, and then Drew Devilier, who started the game in East Hartford last year. And all due respect, again, but
yes, yeah,
not somebody that I'm worrying about. The defense is stout, despite giving up 61 against Texas San Antonio. That was kind of more of like all right, our offense can't do anything because we're down to our 3rd and 4th string quarterbacks. It is what it is. But just to be bowl eligible before Halloween, again, we don't need to go through the history books. It has not happened. Millwall, maybe 07 that year where they started off like 5-0. That might have been. I might have to check myself on that. But not any time recently. That was 18 years ago.
I don't know off the top of my head.
So let's say last 10 years, not even close. Last year was November 1st. So if they can continue to be bowl eligible for their basketball season starts, I think that's beautiful. And we'd be remiss to say this team could also easily be 7-0.
Yeah. Tough.
You think if they could have, chewed the clock and got the stops like they did in the 4th quarter yesterday against Delaware, force just 1 turnover against Delaware, right? Get 1 stop against Delaware, they win that game. Same thing with Syracuse. If they can just hold on those last 6 minutes, they win. So this is a team that is really close to being 7-0. And I think there was a lot of concern among the fan base and a little bit amongst us as well. Those games after those overtime losses, the Ball State, which again, they're now 3-4. That's better. I promise you that's better than like the optimistic projections for Ball State this season. Okay. Buffalo was in a dogfight with UMass yesterday and had needed a very late touchdown to win. So these aren't teams that are world beaters, and UConn really struggled to win, but they did win. So again, could be 7-0, doesn't matter.
I'm thinking of starting to describe their record as like hockey records, like overtime win, overtime losses. So in that way, UConn would be 5-0-0-2, which looks and sounds a lot better, right?
Sure
no losses in regulation. But like you said, yeah, it's a little disappointing, right? Not to rehash anything, but yeah, those 2 losses were not games that ever fell out of UConn's hands. They were games where UConn had a lead in the 4th quarter. In fact, it was a sizable
2-score lead against Syracuse.
2-score lead in the Syracuse game.
I keep bringing it up, but 6 minutes to go, you're up 11.
Absolutely, and that's a better Syracuse team than their final numbers will bear out. That's something that's really irking me. I know, late in the season, they're gonna be like, "Who cares if you lost? That Syracuse team was bad." And it's gonna be like, "Well, they were better, but you have no idea what Steve Angeli was up to at the beginning of this season. People were talking about it, but at any rate, it's a tremendous place to be. Like you're saying, positioned to secure bowl eligibility in October. Amazing. And, to do a little bit of look ahead, not that, we're not on the team, so we can do this. We're going to do a little bit of look ahead, right? You mentioned UAB. That's who's on the schedule next at home. That's a team with an interim coach after firing Trent Dilfer. Of course, if you're a UConn fan, you would have preferred for Trent Dilfer to still be coaching this team on
course.
November 1st, and for maybe the firing to happen after the UConn game, because of course you do get a little bit of an interim bump. UAB just beat ranked Memphis, 22nd ranked Memphis on Saturday. We have to hope that the interim momentum dissipates and UAB stays.
They do have a bye week this week, and that makes me a little nervous
Mhm.
of what they might install.
But this was a close game last year, right? And so no reason to take it for granted, certainly. But UConn should win. Based on everything we think we know about these two teams, UConn should win. The following week, they're hosting Duke. Now, Duke has been an interesting team to keep tabs on across the season. They got walloped by Illinois. They lost to Tulane also by 2 scores. They then strung 3 wins in a row together. Really only one that's very impressive, NC State. Syracuse and Cal turned out to be not very good, as we've mentioned. They lose to Georgia Tech this past weekend. And so, Duke is 3-3. 3-3. Up, I have the record right. They're not that special. Of course, they have the ACC talent edge. They have Darian Mensah. They've got, they've got Manny Diaz. But that's a less tough game than I thought it was in August. Let's put it that way. And for whatever that's worth. And then Air Force, who is respectfully, with all due respect to our airmen and women and service members, not having a good season. They are 2-5. They lost 5 in a row before beating Wyoming this past weekend. Wyoming also may not be very good. And then you got the season finale against FAU, who is also kind of a up and down, inconsistent, has had some good games, is not also that great, but probably a team UConn should beat in these circumstances. So, Graham, just looking ahead at the rest of the schedule, it's all winnable games, winnable, and I'm seeing it as that UConn should win all but that Duke game is what you should go into that game expecting. What do you think?
I think I agree. Duke, again, they're not world beaters, but they do have better players than the Huskies do. It just is what it is. Now, it's a weird kind of game. You're stepping out of conference in November. You're coming to Connecticut. We all know the weather can be variable in November, beginning of November. It could be 70 like it was against Liberty a couple of years ago. It could be freezing. It could be weird freezing rain. I'm thinking like that UCF game like 10 years ago when they came up here and it was like a freezing rain in November.
I think I was at that.
Which I'm sure the team from Orlando loved. UConn won that one, so it can happen. But I think I will guarantee the team is not writing off Duke as like, oh, well, we can't win that game.
Of course,
that's impossible. They're definitely not going to be doing
post game last year.
I'm nervous about UAB now. Just again, it's all new. They also started a new QB. There's this very little film, and Memphis last night, they lost their quarterback in the third quarter. UAB was just dominating time of possession. Memphis seemed to be scoring when their quarterback was in. They were scoring on the very few drives they actually had. So that's something to consider defensively. I think, UAB offense was not really something we thought was going to be poor. That's kind of how they are. They have a good offense, especially a good pass game. Defense was dead last in the country. And points allowed, yards allowed. It's just not a good defense. So, again, we'll see what that interim bump looks like. What do they do this bye week? I doubt we see Kitna again. We're probably going to see this kid. I think Ryder Burton is the name. So, look him up. And he had over 300 yards last night against Memphis. I think you look at you should be winning Rice, especially if they don't have their QB. Because then I don't know who runs the option for them, frankly.
Yeah, a wide receiver probably.
And he has an ankle injury, and those linger. So even if he does play, probably not 100%. So I think you should be taking care of Rice. I think you should still beat UAB regardless of the interim bump and all that. It might not be pretty. It might not be the blowout people expected earlier on in the year, but I think you should still win. Duke is definitely doable. We'll see what kind of energy people have in the rent, what kind of crowd it looks like. If they are 7-2 coming into that game, people should definitely go. There's no basketball games to conflict with that. I'm not a parent yet, but I think youth sports are done by November 8th. At least, like outdoor soccer, youth soccer and all that.
Year round, Graham. You know that. Come on.
Well, I mean, yeah. If you got little ones and they're just kind of, the kindergarten, just kind of walk around and hit the ball.
My kid's doing
that stuff should be done by now.
My kid's doing indoor winter t-ball. What are you talking about? I don't have a
kid. So no excuses. People should come out. But again, you got to win these next 2 games. And Air Force concerns me. The option is always hard to prepare for because, what do you do? Do you do a brand new install? Or do you just kind of do a little bit of this is what we're going to change up this week on defense. We're going to work on wrapping up. We're going to work on tackling. It's like, what do you do? Because it's always tough. But their offense had been really, really good, and then they only have almost half their total for the season last night against Wyoming. So I guess look to Wyoming film for the clue on what to do. Guys like Parham has played against Air Force when he was at San Jose State. So he's probably one of the few Huskies that have actually played this team. So that'll be interesting to see what insight he might bring. You should still win that game. Again, it may not be pretty. They will get yards. Air Force they will get yards. The service academies always do. Do they get points? That's the difference, whether you win that game or not. And then Florida Atlantic, I think, is similar to a UAB in that their defense is not quite as bad, but they have a pretty good offense. I think that QB Veltkamp from Western Kentucky, I think he's over 2,000 yards this season. So it's an offense that can put up points and put up yards in a hurry if you allow them to. But again, up and down, like you said, very inconsistent. So 9-3 is definitely on the table. The first 10-win season ever as an FBS team. I don't even think they did it in the playoff season might have been 10-3. Since they won that one playoff game, I think. I may have to go back and check. That was 1998. So FBS era, first 10-win season is there. They win a bowl game, or if they beat Duke and then win out, also a possibility. So everything's still on the table for this team. Even 8-4 would be disappointing considering being 5-2, but that would still be, in the grand scheme of things, back-to-back 8-4 seasons. Yes. It's good for this program.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was going to say, which is I'm at 9 wins expected, 8 wins, if something goes wrong, and that's a tremendous outcome for this season. It's like a minor disappointment in the scope of some things, but it's a really tremendous overall result, especially if you can get 1 or 2 P4 wins. You already have one with Boston College. Technically speaking, Boston College is a P4 team.
Yeah.
And, grabbed a couple last year, have a chance to grab a couple this year, see what the bowl game is. If you're 9 going into the bowl game, chance to win 10, that's something to play for. And you're also just, again, a more attractive bowl team. That's something that UConn still is contending with a little bit as an independent, which is that no bowl ties. UConn still remains an attractive brand to work with as a bowl partner. So I'm not.
My sources tell me.
Yes, let's hear it.
Okay. My sources tell me they're at 8-9 again like last year. You're looking at either Pinstripe, Fenway again.
Nice.
Whatever that's worth. That's what I'm hearing.
That's cool. I think that makes a lot of sense. Fenway, right? Everyone said it wasn't possible. They said you couldn't play in the Fenway Bowl and get an invite to play a football game in a baseball stadium in December. But UConn got in because, look, these bowls are trying to make money.
Yeah,
right.
And ESPN was very happy with the attendance last season.
Yeah, it's not that deep. Does the Pinstripe Bowl want some 7-win Nebraska team, or do they want a 9-win UConn team? They want a 9-win UConn team.
Find out.
Yeah, or let's find out. But let's find out. But I think with obviously all the Boston, New York. We've talked about it. We don't have to get too into the bowl projections there, but that's interesting info for sure. And that's super promising. Then you get a chance at a P4 game in the bowl. So then that means something for UConn fans, for players certainly, and the program. And so as a final, I know we've run long on this post game.
Yeah.
This is an important episode.
Yeah.
Fun of beating Boston College twice in 3 meetings, doing so as an independent program. What do you think this means for UConn, just in general?
I mean, it's always big to beat your rival in New England. There aren't many New England teams. And obviously, BC is the only P4 New England team. UConn, of course, wishes that was not the case. And I see I see a lot out there like, oh, BC blocked UConn. And I mean, yeah, to some extent. Also Florida State and Clemson weren't really enamored with the idea of having UConn football join as well. So how much of a percentage was BC blocking them? Really the reason they didn't get in? I don't know. People can argue about that, but it wasn't the only thing that kept UConn out of the ACC is what I'm saying. It's big. There's always an attitude of BC, like we are so above UConn academically. We are the best. We are BC. We are this, we're that. You guys are Storrs Community College, blah, 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 like it's 1981 again. And it's not. Yeah. We know the academics that UConn have vastly improved, closed the gap greatly. And just the profile of the university, the athletic department, not just basketball, but, UConn wins in plenty of other sports as well.
Yes.
BC has lacrosse and hockey. That's cool too.
Sick.
But it's not as if UConn's complete without success. There's a lot of fans who are a little bit older that knows that this can be a pretty testy rivalry. They haven't played as much, possibly because of that kind of attitude. Like it's not worth playing UConn. With that said, I think this next series that starts in 2029 may not happen now. And, BC now has an excuse with the going to a 9-game conference season. Like there's just no room. We can't play, guys. Sorry. So it's great to get that, and I think I tweeted out, this might be the last game. So it's great to get that. You always wondered, could we ever beat BC? It looked impossible for a long time. Now it's happened twice, one at home, one on the road. If this is the end of the series, great. So I'm glad to go out on a win. And maybe it makes some BC fans reflect on, have some self-realization on where they actually are as a program, as an athletic department, and they probably won't, but whatever. I'm happy.
Yeah. I mean, the enduring lesson that athletic department television revenue does not directly make you happy, right? You have to have something else, and that something else is sports success, something which Boston College broadly lacks and does not experience. Hey, maybe the series with UConn as a member of the ACC.
That'd be beautiful.
My final point on this is just that if UConn's been trying to make the case to be invited to a power conference, and the counter argument has always been pretty strong in the past few years, given the status of UConn football. So now, if you've got a second straight good season, 2 straight seasons where you're beating power conference teams, you look like you belong, you demonstrate institutional investment, which I think is certainly occurring.
Yep.
But this is what it's about. UConn is standing up on the stages where it matters, which is its power conference games this year, giving Syracuse a scare, beating Boston College. We'll see what happens in the Duke game, and they'll maybe have a chance in the bowl game. So the way this is playing out is great. It's the fact, again, that it's happening as an independent. I don't think that's a coincidence, right? Independence has been a good rehabilitation opportunity for the program, just to play a schedule that makes a little bit more sense. And the AAC was just, we don't have to get into it. So it's really a validation of this kind of temporary, meant to be temporary independence model, and the fact that it can raise the state of the program. And maybe today the case is a little bit better for UConn, or maybe after this season, we'll
I think
say.
it's a stronger case if you lose.
Stronger
I don't
case.
think winning does as much as losing this game would have, given how bad BC is. So
Of course, no, of course. So you got to win this. You got to still have your good season, right? Job's not done, but season goes well. They get one or two. They end with 9 wins. They win their bowl game, something like that. We're talking in a really positive light about the program and its direction and all these kind of higher level things that people talk about. And so that's what Power Conference wins does to a program in UConn State, and they grabbed one. They matter.
Yep.
That's huge. The Huskies will be back in action on Saturday in Houston against Rice. That game kicks off at 3 p.m. on ESPN+. We'll have coverage for you across Store Central as always. Thank you for watching.